Murder Weekly now has merch. Find shirts, mugs, and more with the Murder Weekly logo for sale at our merch store. There's free shipping and 10% off now with the coupon NEWMERCH10. Did we mention there's free shipping? Check out all the goods at calaroga.com, that's CALOROGA.com, or just look for the link in the show notes. Thanks for supporting the show. We really appreciate it.
Calaroga Shark Media. Hello and welcome to Murder Weekly. This episode is titled Salad Koala.
The tinny electronic music from the Salad Koala mobile app filled the air of Dave's cramped sedan. He squinted at his phone screen with mounting frustration as the processing payment wheel spun interminably. Come on, he muttered under his breath. A bead of sweat trickled down his furrowed brow. With an anticlimactic bloop, the app suddenly flashed a new message. Payment method declined. Please try again. Son of a bitch. Dave smacked his palm against the steering wheel, drawing annoyed looks from nearby pedestrians. This had been happening far too often lately whenever he attempted to order from the trendy Salad Eatery's app. Despite numerous calls to his bank and triple-checking his information, his credit card would get inexplicably declined for seemingly no reason. Well, enough was enough. Dave wasn't about to be deterred from his daily Salad Koala fix, not when he'd been diligently following their eat healthy, live large lifestyle for months. If they couldn't accept his money online, he would simply take his business to the nearest franchise location and give them a piece of his mind. "10 minutes later, Dave pulled into the parking lot of the Salad Koala on Dwight Street. Even from the vehicle, he could make out the rustic wooden beams and trendy succulents artfully arranged against the exposed brick interior. Just glimpsing the upbeat modern eatery fanned the flames of his irritation. As he stormed through the entrance, Dave was immediately enveloped in the pungent aroma of fresh greens, roasted nuts, and musky undertones of the restaurant's signature koala kale dressing. The spacious dining room was sparsely populated for the early evening hour. Just a handful of tired-looking office drones picking disinterestedly at their salads while scrolling on their phones. All except for two young women at the corner table who seemed to be engaging in a heated discussion. Dave steeled his resolve and marched up to the counter, where a too-chipper teenage cashier offered him a beaming smile. "Hi there. Welcome to Salad Koala. Can I start you off with our tri-salad sampler while you decide on your entree pour—" Dave slammed his palm on the countertop, cutting her fake chipperness off with a cold glare. "No. What you can do is explain why your crappy app keeps rejecting my card even after multiple successful payments to you bozos." The bubbly cashier's smile froze in place, her eyes going momentarily wide at the unexpected hostility. She opened her mouth to respond, only to be cut off by an authoritative new voice. "Is there a problem here?" A slim woman in her 30s wearing the manager's forest green Salad Koala polo emerged from the kitchen, piercing Dave with a hard stare. He scowled and opened his mouth to unload, but was again interrupted, this time by one of the young women at the corner table. "Yeah, Cheryl. You might want to get control of your unhinged customer before he stops just spitting mad and starts getting physical." Dave turned to see a smirking blonde with bright red lipstick, clearly the source of the commentary. She flashed him a mocking wink before leaning across the table toward her friend and stage whispering loudly, "God, can you imagine being so furious over an underwhelming salad chain? Pretty sure that's a new level of pathy." "Look, miss," Dave snarled, wheeling back to face the manager, Cheryl. "I don't know what kind of two-bit outfit you're running here, but I've been a devoted customer ordering from you people nearly twice a week. Yet every time I try to order through your app, it declines my payment without explanation." Cheryl raised a placating hand, the very picture of customer service, calm and rationality. "Sir, I completely understand your frustration, but yelling and insults won't resolve anything. Why don't we start over calmly? Can you show me your mobile order attempt so I can check our system logs? Dave fumed silently for a moment, feeling all eyes in the dining room boring into him. Behind the counter, the cashier looked like she was on the verge of tears from the sheer tension. Muttering under his breath, he pulled up his phone and shoved it across the counter toward Cheryl. See for yourself, over and over, same damn issue. The manager peered at the screen for a few moments before her expression melted into one of polite understanding. Ah, I see now, she said gently. It seems there's been an error with your payment info being auto-stored to your account correctly. That's almost certainly why it keeps kicking the charge back. Dave opened his mouth to protest, but Cheryl deftly continued in that same soothing tone. But not to worry, we can wipe the slate clean right now in just a couple of minutes. Why don't you have a seat, and I'll bring you over a complimentary koala key punch while we get this sorted. She looked toward the giggling table of girls with a pointed glance. I'll even throw in a free order of our Nutty Crunch topping if you ladies can pipe down out of common courtesy. The blonde smirked again, but offered no further commentary as Dave stalked away to find a seat on the patio, stewing in his own righteous indignation. Deep down, he knew the poor manager was probably just doing her job dealing with his unhinged behavior. He certainly wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of his borderline meltdown either. Still, something about how dismissively those girls had mocked him just didn't sit right. 5 minutes later, Cheryl reappeared carrying the promised koala key punch and a menu. Okay, sir, I've completely deleted and refreshed your account details in our system. If you'd like, I can re-input your payment method right now and get your usual Koala Deluxe Bowl order put through to the kitchen. Dave still felt aggravated at having been forced to make a scene, but the manager's cheery yet professional demeanor had effectively diffused the situation. With a resigned sigh, he dug out his credit card. Fine, yeah, let's try this one more time. The deafening sound of shattering glass obliterated his words as something sailed past mere inches from his face to smash against the far wall. Dave blinked dumbly at the dripping streaks of orange liquid as his brain slowly registered what had just occurred. His gaze turned slowly back toward the dining room, where the blonde and her friend now stood in matching stances of horror. In the dead silence that followed, all eyes locked onto the teenage cashier standing frozen at the counter. Tears streamed openly down her blotchy cheeks as she stared first at the shattered remains of the koala key punch she'd flung at Dave. Then over to the blonde woman, now clutching her throat and starting to sway on her feet. When she slumped to the floor with a heavy thud, Dave saw the sickening crimson bloom spreading from the deep gash across her neck. The shattered ceramic mug had been the weapon, and the teenager had just committed cold-blooded murder right in front of them all. No one dared move or even breathe for several eternal seconds. Finally, the cashier dropped to her knees with a wail of despair and anguish. In that moment, any notion of an accident or mistake was shattered as definitively as the deadly weapon still clenched in her trembling hand. From there, the actual police investigation into precisely what triggered the senseless attack proved to be as convoluted as the murder itself had been brazen. Early interviews revealed the teenage cashier, whose name was Kelsey, had been engaged in a heated dispute with the now-deceased blonde named Mandy for weeks. The two were former best friends until recently falling out over some perceived disloyalty involving a guy they had both been interested in. According to the surviving friend Tanya's official statement, things between Mandy and the cashier had grown increasingly bitter and disruptive at the Salad Koala, where Mandy routinely dined solely to antagonize the young co-ed. Kelsey had allegedly threatened violent retaliation against Mandy multiple times over her tormenting. When the manager Cheryl was questioned, she acknowledged cautiously disciplining Kelsey over the past few weeks about her inappropriate hostility toward customers. However, as the face of the company, she always endeavored to de-escalate and resolve such conflicts diplomatically. Seasoned detectives also extensively interviewed Dave, the unwitting customer whose seemingly innocuous payment issue had provided the powder keg spark that day. He readily admitted to being irate about his credit card troubles, but vehemently denied instigating any physical confrontation or provocation that could have set Kelsey off on a homicidal rage. If anything, Dave's testimony only muddied the waters further. On one side was a vengeful feud between two former friends turned mortal enemies. On the other, a hungry customer overreacting in the worst possible way to minor incompetence. Both scenarios had the potential for escalating tempers and resentments that could conceivably climax in senseless violence like what transpired. But as the investigation dragged on with reconstruction after painstaking reconstruction of the event, an unsettling new theory slowly emerged. One that painted Kelsey less as an impulsive killer and more as a pale imitation of her literary inspirations brought to life in the most deranged way imaginable. Interviews with the teenager's parents revealed a once sweet-natured, if socially awkward young girl who had slowly been withdrawing into introversion over the past year. As many in her age group did, she found solace in binge-watching true crime documentaries and consuming vast libraries of thriller novels about charismatic serial killers and psychopaths. Kelsey's obsessive personality gravitated toward fixating on the calm, calculated personas of infamous fictional killers like Hannibal Lecter and Patrick Bateman. She seemed to draw inspiration from their icy machinations and complete lack of outward instability until the moment they struck. That fateful day in front of her managers, the hapless customer and her tormentors, the unassuming cashier, had simply decided this was to be her moment to step off the written page into real life. When the frustrated Dave escalated the situation with his bluster, Kelsey opted to cement her infamy by randomly targeting the unlikeliest victim possible, the shallow, mean girl who fate had cruelly placed in her crosshairs. Just like in her twisted literary inspirations, she had coolly waited for the perfect opening when everyone's guard was down, then struck with sudden, casually brutal violence before anyone realized she'd been living out a dark fantasy the entire time. Kelsey's failed attempt to mimic her idols cemented her fate behind bars, with no possibility for parole or a dramatic last-second reveal from her delusional inner psyche. And while Dave was rattled by his proximity to the sickening crime, his life ultimately continued on with little interruption beyond his newfound aversion to salad bar franchises. For the rest of Salad Koala's dining patrons that evening, however, the horrific sights and sounds never faded. Just another harsh reminder that darkness can lurk behind even the most mundane facades, manifesting itself without hesitation when nurtured by troubled minds.
Murder Weekly is a Calaroga Shark media production, written and hosted by Aidan I. Flanagan, produced by Mark Francis, executive producers Mark Francis and John McDermott. Portions of this podcast may have been created with the assistance of AI.
This show, along with hundreds of others from Calaroga Shark Media, is available commercial-free on any player, hassle-free. Just look for the link in the episode or show notes.
Calaroga Shark Media.